Let it be understood clearly. Nervous system regulation, as the world uses the term, must not become a new war. Do you not see what happens when you make sensation an enemy to be conquered, breath a horse to be broken, the pulse a wild thing to be tamed? You enthrone the very disturbance you would dethrone. You place a crown on the creature and bow before it as power. That is not spiritual practice. That is idolatry. God is not a power to be used by man. We are not here to take up one more weapon in the human armory and swing it against our own flesh. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. I speak to you now as one who has sat through the night with the chest tight and the thoughts loud, not with a stopwatch in my hand, not with drills marshaled like troops, but with a simple inward turn to grace. And the demonstration was this. The very moment I ceased the inward fist fight, the storm lost its wind. Peace, be still, was not spoken to coerce the sea, but to reveal that the sea had no power apart from the life that is peace. When you attempt to prove your peace by the absence of waves, by counting flare-ups, by timing recoveries, you adopt a false measuring rod. In the material sense of life, we tally victories. Less pain, fewer triggers, better metrics, and now what next? But in the spiritual consciousness of life, we do not measure by appearances disappearing. We measure by the rest that abides, even as appearances come and go. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and watch the graph improve. Be still and know. This must be plain to you. Healing begins not when the sensation is gone, but when your resistance to its appearance has been withdrawn. The fight is the breath you pump into the idol. The argument is the authority you grant to the image. Resist not evil. Do you not know what that means for your nerves, your heart, your skin? It means you do not lean your shoulder against the symptom and push. It means you do not rebuke your own body as a transgressor. It means you retire from the battlefield that you yourself have drawn in chalk across your chest, and you let grace be grace. My friends, the instant you remove your consent from the pretense of two powers, symptom as power, method as counterpower, that instant the government is returned to the one. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. Do not misunderstand. I am not promising that you will never feel a surge again. I am saying that the surge, without your worship, is only a passing shape on the surface of the sea. Creature, not creator. Form, not power. And so let us correct this within ourselves from this very hour. We will not count our spirituality by how rarely we are startled, how seldom we are stirred, how quickly we discharge a spite. That is a hopeless task and a cruel one. The standard is this. Can you rest when sensation is present? Can you refrain from the inward lawsuit? Can you live by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God, rather than by yesterday's numbers? Set this as law within you. When the pulse rises, do not rise against it. When the breath shortens, do not shorten your mercy. When the thought accuses, do not mount a counter case. Withdraw first. Rest first. Cease first. And then, in that holy non-event of not fighting, watch what happens in the body, in the mind, and in the day. Often, yes, you will notice a softening. Sometimes you will notice nothing at all but a larger room inside you, and that room is God's. My grace is sufficient for thee. Sufficient, not supplemented by your struggle. So, let us begin where the Master always begins, with stillness, with consent to grace, with the refusal to serve two masters. Regulation as combat strengthens the disturbance. Regulation as surrender reveals there was no second power to conquer. Withdraw and see, rest and know, and then we will go on together. Do you not see, my friends, that the very instant a flicker of sensation arises, the mind rushes forward like a prosecutor with a ready-made indictment, a twitch in the chest danger, a warmth in the face danger, a memory passing through danger, and immediately, before the body has finished reporting a simple weather pattern across its fields, we deploy troops. Breath counts as battalions, mantras as artillery, posture checks as scouts, endless scanning as spies. And the message to the system is this: we are under siege. A house divided against itself cannot stand. The body cannot rest while you are cross-examining it on the witness stand. Let it be understood clearly. Symptom, meaning, resistance, more symptom, this is the loop. A small stirring appears, and we confer upon it a meaning as if we were oracles of doom. This is bad. This must not be here. Then we resist. We brace. We command the sea to obey our stopwatch. And the body, faithful servant that it is, records the bracing as danger. It does not read our struggle as safety. It reads it as alarm. And so the stirring becomes a wave, not by its own strength, but by the wind of our war. Fear hath torment, the apostle says, and torment multiplies when fear is treated as a foe to be slain rather than a shadow to be overlooked. Do you not know that the so-called tools, when lifted as weapons, keep the sentinel awake on the wall all night? The very practices designed to remind us of grace become drumbeats of vigilance. We breathe, not as a resting, but as a drill. We scan, not as a blessing, but as a search for enemy movement. We repeat phrases, not as communion, but as incantations to bind a devil. And the nervous system, obedient and honest, marks down one word across the ledger: unsafe. My friends, the system calms in safety, not in victory. Safety is not the result of your techniques defeating an enemy. Safety is the atmosphere of non-enmity, the climate where nothing in you is being prosecuted. Even the wish to get rid of a feeling is an oath you swear at the altar of two powers. The moment you say, I must get rid of this, you have testified under oath that the sensation is a power, and now God, grace, spirit must be summoned as a greater power to crush it. That is the material sense of life, one force pitted against another. And now what next? In spiritual consciousness, there are not two powers. There is just grace. Resist not evil is not a command to like your discomfort. It is a revelation that resistance is a flag of war, and where there is war, there cannot be peace. Watch the cycle in your own experience. A sound startles. Instantly, you name it threat. Instantly, you lift your shield. Instantly, the heart pounds not from the sound alone, but from the meaning you chain to it. Then, seeing the pounding, you declare, see, I knew it was danger, and raise a second army to conquer the first. Do you see how cleverly the mind converts even your help into harm when it is animated by fear? This is why the Master says, take no thought for your life, which is to say, do not live by the anxious stratagems of self-defense, but by the quiet dependence upon the Father within who is life. Thought can calculate, only spirit can assure. And assurance, not argument, is what your body recognizes as home. I am not speaking theory. I have watched this in my own members. A morning prickle named problem, followed by a parade of controls, and then the faithful body upping the signal to match the headline. But I have also witnessed the other way, the headline withdrawn, the name released, the inward weapons laid down, and the same body, with no commanding shout from me, settling as if it had heard, "My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth." The creature loses its roar the moment you stop preaching its gospel. You need not announce, "I am safe," 1,000 times to convince omnipresent life. You need only stop testifying that you are at war. So let this be written in your consciousness. The nervous system interprets your inner lawsuit as a verdict of danger. It cannot translate your scolding into safety. It does not calm because you win. It calms because you cease to fight. Withdraw the label. Withdraw the sentence. Withdraw the demand that the sea lie flat to prove you are protected. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and conquer, but be still and know. Safety, not victory. Grace, not might. And upon that knowing, the body, that faithful servant, will lay down its arms and rest. Let it be understood clearly. The entire struggle you and I have been taught to call self-regulation rests upon a hidden premise that there are two powers at work in you, two kingdoms contending: peace and panic, health and threat, spirit and body, you and your nervous system. Do you not see how subtly the mind divides the one life into camps and then spends itself refereeing the brawl? We baptize one sensation as holy, another as unclean. We call one rhythm regulated, another dysregulated, and we place ourselves as judges between them, gavel in hand. But this judging is the very noise that drowns the quiet voice. No man can serve two masters. You cannot serve grace and at the same time serve the belief that there is a rival to grace to be subdued. I give you now the doctrinal strike. In spiritual consciousness, there are not two powers. There is just grace. There is one sustaining presence that is not in competition with anything that appears. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, one, not one plus a shadow you must dispatch before he can be himself. The world of material belief is a world of counters, pressure versus pressure, method versus symptom, might versus might, and now what next? But the word says, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Spirit is not summoned to defeat a second force. Spirit is the only life, the only law, the only atmosphere of your being. When you rest in that, you do not need to regulate by force because you have ceased to certify a second force. And what then is fear? Let us no longer flatter it with titles. Fear is not an opposing power. It is an appearance, what Paul calls the creature, claiming authority by borrowing your attention and thriving on your resistance. It is a form on the surface of the sea, a sound in the night that grows loud to the degree you preach it as gospel. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Do you see? Form has no power in itself. Do not fear anything that has form, not even a thought. When you treat fear as an adversary, you make it your God by worshiping its supposed capacity to harm, and then you invent a second God, a better God, to come and slay it. That is idolatry in two directions. Creator is not at war with creature. Creator sustains, and the creature passes. Perhaps you say, but my body surges, my chest tightens, my skin pricks. I do not deny appearances. I deny their authority. Call the surge what you will, adrenaline, sympathetic arousal, a pattern from old storms. In the language of wellness, we have diagnostics and names. Very well, but let it be clearly known. The deeper cause level freedom is not achieved by better management of two opponents. It is realized when inner dualism ends, when you stop positioning yourself as a commander over a wayward body and return to being the witness of grace in whom both calm and stirrings arise and dissolve. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and conquer the spike. Be still and know there is no second law rising against you. I speak to you as one who made this demonstration in the night watch. There were hours when I tried to be the stronger power, to outbreathe the wave, to outtalk the tremor. It did not work. The very intensity of my remedy was the incense I burned before the idol. But the moment I withdrew my certification, no denunciation, no white-knuckled trust, simply the ceasing, the creature fell back into line as a harmless form, and the sea remembered its source. Perfect love casteth out fear, not by wrestling with it, but by removing the altar at which fear receives its offerings. So set this law in your consciousness. Stop believing in two powers. Withdraw the title of enemy from whatever sensation rises. Refuse the throne to form. Let grace be grace, the only climate in which your life truly breathes. When the mind rushes into battle, answer it with a master's counsel. Resist not evil, because resistance is the badge of divided reality. Return to one presence, one life, one peace. And in that oneness, you will find that what you thought needed force needs only non-opposition. What you thought required technique requires only truth. When you stop believing in two powers, you stop needing to regulate by power. You rest, and the kingdom governs of itself. Now we come to the first movement, and let it be understood clearly. It is not fixing, it is ceasing. Withdraw from the battle. Do you not see that every attempt to manage, to argue, to negotiate with a sensation is a renewal of its contract? Withdrawal is not dissociation. There is no fleeing from your own house. Withdrawal is not suppression. There is no pushing down into darkness what has no power and light. Withdrawal is not bypass. There is no pretending that an appearance is not appearing. Withdrawal is simpler, holier, quieter. It is the refusal to fight, to analyze, to bargain. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not stand still and design it. Stand still and see. Take this now, not as a theory, but as a posture. Relax. Stop. Settle back. Let the sensation be present without assigning it a job. Do not make it your teacher, your judge, your sentinel, your punishment, or your proof of failure. Judge not. Include your body's weather. Do not sentence a flutter in the chest to be a felony. Let it appear as a form on the sea. Let it pass as a cloud. If thought rushes forward with a brief, this means danger. Do not cross-examine. If the breath is quick, do not order it to be slow. Sit back into grace as into a chair that has held you since before you were formed. Take no thought for your life is not a neglect of life. It is a release of the anxious government that never saved you. Let the government be upon his shoulder. Why does this work? Because what you do not resist, you do not empower. What you cease to worship as danger loses its throne. Resist not evil, for resistance is the incense at the altar of fear. The creature sensation, image, thought, borrows its apparent authority from your consent. Withdraw the consent and the borrowed crown falls to the floor. Hear the master's word before Pilate. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Form has no power. Creator alone is power, grace, spirit, the one presence. Perfect love casteth out fear, not by grappling with a rival, but by revealing there is no rival to love. When you withdraw, you are not doing a clever hack. You are making a spiritual recognition. I remove my seal from fear's claim to authority. I rest in the one. I speak to you as one who has made this demonstration in very ordinary places. In a clinic hallway, when the fluorescent hum and antiseptic air stirred the old story in my nerves, I felt the wave rise and the mind reach for levers. In that instant, I did not count or fix or bargain. I withdrew. I refused to crown a sensation as king. I let it be present, unhired, unemployed, unfeared, and without command from me. There was a softening, sometimes quickly, sometimes not, but always there was a deeper governance, a remembering. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. And on a freeway ramp, when the pulse beat hard enough to write its message on my temples, I sat back inside, and the message changed because I ceased to be its preacher. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom is not delivered by technique. It is recognized in ceasing. Now fix this in your consciousness. We are not collecting gears in the head. We are making the demonstration in the moment it arises. In the very breath, when a surge begins, do not bring your tools as troops. Bring your consent to grace. Say inwardly, without words, if you wish, enough of governing what never needed my governance. Be still. No. Let the creature stand there, unpraised and uncondemned, and it will take its rightful size. If you catch yourself turning withdrawal into a method to make the feeling go away, gently stop. That is negotiation again. We are not trying to vanquish an enemy. We are resting in the absence of enemies. We overcome the belief that there is something to overcome. So, my friends, in this first movement, do not strive, withdraw, relax, stop, settle back. Refuse to serve two masters by refusing to argue with your own members. My grace is sufficient for thee, sufficient without your added might. In that sufficiency, the nervous system reads one message only, home. And in that home, peace does not arrive as a victory parade. It is simply what remains when the drums are silenced. Now let it be understood clearly, and let us do it together. This is under 4 minutes, but it is not a race. It is a recognition. The practice is not to manufacture calm, but to rest where calm is already true. First, name it without fear. Whatever has stirred heat in the skin, a clutch in the chest, thoughts clanging like pans, say inwardly, very simply, a feeling is here, not a problem, not a relapse, not a threat. Judge not, said the master. Withdraw the verdict. A cloud has drifted across the field of awareness. Acknowledge its presence without a headline. This naming is not a spell. It is the refusal to kneel to labels that arm the creature with borrowed authority. 1 or 2 natural breaths as you recognize this. A feeling is here. That is all. Second, release the opponent narrative. Say within yourself, with the gentleness of truth, this is not against me. I do not have to conquer it. Do you not see what that does? It lifts the gavel. from your own hand. It ends the trial. No man can serve two masters. You cannot serve grace and simultaneously wage war on a sensation as if it were a power. Resist not evil. Is your permission slip to lay down the badge of sheriff and return to being the witness of God's one presence? Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not stand still and scheme, not stand still and brace, stand still and see. Another easy breath. Nothing to subdue, nothing to beat. Third, rest in assurance. Do not force the breath. Let it do what breath God-given knows to do. Inwardly acknowledge there is a presence here that is not disturbed. That presence is not arriving. It is. The kingdom of God is within you. Lo, I am with you always. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Let those words be not incantations, but recognition. My friends, even while a wave moves along the surface, the depth of the sea is not in turmoil. Place your weight, your seat, in that depth, not by might, not by power, but by spirit. 2 or 3 breaths, naturally. And if breath is shallow, let it be shallow. The assurance is not measured in inches of inhale, but in the simple knowing that grace does not tremble. Fourth, let the body be honest. Do not repress a tremble. Do not swallow a cough. Do not apologize for heat in the cheeks or tears in the eyes. Do not prop the eyelids when they ask to close for a moment. The creature is permitted its harmless motion. Perfect love casteth out fear. Not by binding the body, but by removing the indictment. If the hand wants to rest on the belly, let it. If the shoulders want to drop, let them. If a sigh comes, let it come. Do not coach the river. Let it run the lawful curve carved by the mountains of God. Remember the word to Pilate. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. This sensation is not power. You owe it no ceremonial resistance, no panic tax. Leave it unhired, unemployed, unfeared. Fifth, return to simple life. Open the eyes softly if they have closed. Feel the weight of your body in the chair, the contact of feet with the floor, the ordinariness of the room, light on a wall, a sound in the hallway, the book on the table. Take the next plain action. Stand and pour water. Answer the email with one line. Place a dish in the sink. Walk to the door. Do not check the barometer inside to certify perfect calm. That is to make a new idol. Take therefore no thought for the morrow. Whatsoever thy hand findeth to do, do it. We walk by faith, not by sight, not by chart, not by graph, not by reassurance scans. You are not performing serenity for a jury. You are resuming life under the government of one presence. This, my friends, is the whole of it. Name without fear. Release the opponent's story. Rest in assurance. Let the body be honest. Return to the next simple thing. If at any point you notice you are using the sequence as leverage to make a feeling disappear, smile inwardly and step back to the third beat. There is a presence here that is not disturbed. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. My grace is sufficient for thee. Sufficient without your struggle, without your stopwatch. Do this not once, but time again and time again and time again, and you will learn through lived moments, not theories, that calm is not made. It is recognized, and it holds you while the creature comes and goes. Then watch what happens. Not as a spectacle, not as a test, but as a quiet recognition of law. When the incense of resistance is no longer rising at the altar of fear, the creature loses its threat. The body had been reading your prosecution as danger. Now, in the absence of a trial, it reads home. Often, yes, often you will notice a change in the very quality of the sensation. It is still there, but the edges are less sharp, the urgency less insistent, the compulsion to fix it strangely absent. The same heat in the face that a moment ago felt like a summons to war now feels like weather passing through a field. Do you not see? Nothing mystical has been added. The illusion of arrival has been removed, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. I speak to you from demonstrations that were not staged in chapels, but in aisles and elevators. Standing in a grocery market, the line long, the lights bright, a flutter rose in the chest, and the mind rushed to write an editorial. In that instant, I withdrew my consent to the headline. I let the creature be a creature. There was no prayer to win. Only the recognition. God is. Grace is. The source has not moved. What shifted? Not first the rhythm in the chest, but the throne under it. The urge to measure, to prove, to manage went. And with it, the sensation that had been begging for a hearing lost its audience. In 2 minutes, I was placing bread on the counter, not as a victory march, but as ordinary life, resuming under one government. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Want what? Want a different body to feel safe. However, let it be understood clearly. This softening does not always come in a flash. Sometimes the wave stays on the surface a while. Sometimes it rolls through the afternoon, and the body continues its honest reporting. This is not failure. This is not an enemy in disguise. This is the very classroom in which non-resistance is learned. What dissolves first is not always the sensation. It is the fear of the sensation, the worship of the creature as power. And the moment the worship ends, the tyranny ends, even if the form lingers. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. A shadow may accompany your steps. Fear need not govern your gait. Measure rightly. Do not go back to the false measuring rod. How quickly did it vanish? How perfectly did I flatten the sea? This is material arithmetic. The spiritual measure is this. Was I unafraid of the arising? Did I refuse to kneel to it as power? Did I rest in what is already true? God is, grace is, presence is. If so, even with the ripple on the surface, the government has shifted from your stopwatch to his shoulder. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. Peace increases not because ripples never return, but because ripples are no longer enthroned as law. Do not fear anything that has form, not even a thought. Thoughts have textures, images, stories. Sensations have temperatures, pulses, pressures. They rise, they fall. They are the creature. The creator is the life back of them, not disturbed by their motion. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Do you not know what liberty descends when this is not merely repeated but realized? The same sequence that used to propel you into hours of battle now loses its engine because you have removed your consent. No engine, no war, the form may knock at the door. Without your worship, it is only a passerby. I have lain awake in the second hour of the night when the heart wrote its drumbeat against the ribs. Once upon a time I would marshal armies, sips of water measured, breathing regimens enforced, verses flung like spears. Now I turn, not away from the body, but away from the fight. I rest back into the assurance, my grace is sufficient for thee. Sufficient for what? For being, for breathing, for bedding this body and this beat in a presence that has no rivals. Sometimes the drum quiets quickly. Sometimes it plays until dawn. But I sleep in snatches without bargaining. And when the light comes, I rise, pour coffee, answer the first simple obligation of the day. The miracle is not that sensation never comes. It is that it no longer rules. So, my friends, behold the demonstration in your own life this week. Do not wait for a stadium of witnesses. Do not announce a test. Simply make the inward withdrawal as the wave appears. And then note, not to grade yourself, but to learn how the quality shifts. Less story, less urgency, less compulsion to fix. Perhaps the creature still moves. Very well, let it move. You are no longer its court. You are no longer its priest. You are the witness of the one in whom all forms live and move and have their being. And in that witnessing, the forms return to their rightful size, useful, instructive sometimes, but never sovereign. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as victory over a rival, but as the rest that needs no rival to be at peace. Let it be understood clearly. There is a reason the battle feels familiar, even moral. It gives you a part to play, a plan to execute, a ledger to balance at the end of the day. See, I did my techniques. I fought the good fight. I kept the protocols. And because the flesh loves the assurance of visible effort, the struggle masquerades as safety. But safety is not manufactured by your hustle. It is recognized in the presence that is already your life. He that believeth shall not make haste. Haste is the costume of fear pretending to be responsibility. Do you not know, my friends, that the one who fights is still frightened? Do you not see that effort can be an alibi for trust? This is the subtlety. We call it discipline, but the heart knows it as dread. If I stop wrestling, who will hold me up? And so we rush to our stations, counting breaths, checking pulses, pushing buttons on an inward console, and the nervous system reads one message: we are in danger unless we keep working. Martha, Martha, thou art careful and troubled about many things, but one thing is needful. The many things of managing your inner weather are a crowded kitchen. The one needful thing is the quiet acknowledgement. God is. Grace is. I am held. I speak to you from my own ledger of days. When I made the labor my savior, I wore grooves in the floor at 2 a.m, patrolling the perimeter of a body I did not trust. My routines were precise, my plans thorough, and my fear fattened on the incense of my vigilance. Let me save you the years. It is a hopeless task to defeat fear by fear-driven technique. It cannot be done. You will only prove to yourself that more control is needed, and then more, and then more. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. And spirit is not a tool wielded by your alarm. Spirit is the atmosphere in which alarm evaporates, unhired and unfed. What feels like responsibility can be disguised distrust. The honest question to put before the altar is this: am I doing this because I am led or because I am scared not to? Am I working because love moves me, or because I do not yet believe love can move without my supervision? When the answer is the latter, call it by its right name and release it. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. And ye would not hear that tenderness, and ye would not. The Father is not shaming your reluctance. He is revealing the door you have avoided because it looks like surrender. It is surrender to what? To grace. Refrain now from confusing rigor with righteousness. True discipline in this way is not the tightening of the jaw. It is the soft, faithful turning time. Again and time again, back to non-resistance and inward assurance. The mind will say, do something bigger, prove something greater, get this over with once and for all. But in the spirit, there are not two powers to be settled by a decisive campaign. There is one presence to be recognized in 100 small returns. That is the discipline. To notice when you have slipped back into managing as a substitute for trusting, and to replace management with recognition. Be still and know, not be still and engineer. Consider how quickly the ego offers certifications. I am being diligent. I am taking responsibility. Yes, but responsibility to what? To the kingdom of fear or to the government of peace? Real responsibility is fidelity to truth within, not obedience to panic's call sheet. It may look like less doing, fewer knobs turned, more pauses, in which you say inwardly, thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. And in that pause, the nervous system hears what no technique can convincingly declare. We are safe because safety is God, not because our performance is flawless. Relax. Rest in the assurance that nothing is lost when you lay down the badge of inner sheriff. You are not abandoning duty. You are stepping into higher fidelity. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. This is not rest as a prize after heroic exertion. This is rest as the method, the medium, the way. Make your discipline the return. When fear suggests, if you stop, you will fall, answer gently, if I cease, I fall back into the everlasting arms. And then cease, and then return, and then cease again, until the habit of struggle loosens, and trust, once only a visitor on Sundays, takes up residence and governs your days. Let it be understood clearly. You can learn a sequence with your mind and still not know peace. You can memorize every step, name the feeling, release the opponent's story, rest in assurance, let the body be honest, return to the next simple thing and yet meet the first stirring as a test you must pass and immediately be back in two powers thinking. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Not ye shall remember the outline. Knowing in the spiritual sense is not data stacked in the head. It is discernment awakened in the heart. Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Truth is not manufactured. It is recognized. And the recognition becomes natural only as you live with it time again and time again and time again until it ceases to be what you do and becomes who you are. Do you not see that this is the whole course of spiritual life? We move from hearing to doing, and from doing to being. Be doers of the word, and not hearers only. At first you will do the practice as practice, and that is good. You will notice the swell of a surge, and say within, a feeling is here. You will release the trial, rest in assurance, and return to the next ordinary act. Then life will give you another chance in the checkout line. Or when the unexpected email arrives with its sharp edges. Or when the phone vibrates at an odd hour. Or when you wake at 3 a.m. and the room is full of the old story. In each of these small thresholds, you withdraw again quietly, without ceremony. In a week, there are dozens of such doors. Walk through them. This repetition is not drudgery. It is the engraving of a new identity. Pray without ceasing is not constant words. It is unbroken posture. Non-resistance as posture. I speak to you from having made this demonstration in buses and basements, in hospital foyers, and on sidewalks slick with rain. I found that what I repeated in little moments began to meet me before I could summon it. Where once I reached for a lever, the absence of levers appeared first. Where once the inner sheriff barked orders, a gentler government had already taken the bench. The kingdom was no longer something I visited when I remembered. It was the air I breathed. The kingdom of God is within you. Within, not as an emergency kit, but as nature. Expect, however, that the old reflex will return. Of course it will. Habits forged in fear do not salute once and retire. When you catch yourself bracing, do not scold. When you notice analysis taking the wheel, do not add a second layer of struggle by wrestling with your wrestling. Simply withdraw again. A just man falleth 7 times and riseth up again. 70 times 7, you will release and rest. And each time, without drama, your very ease in returning will prove to you that peace is your home and effort is the detour. Shame is only the old government subpoenaing you back to court. Ignore the summons. Come home. This is inner discernment. As the mind stops arguing, guidance rises from the withinness. Like a spring that needed only the stone lifted from its mouth, you will find yourself quietly knowing not to take that call just now, to step outside for air, to answer the email with one simple sentence rather than 3 anxious paragraphs, to lie back on the pillow and let the breath be honest. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence not in your technique, but in the presence that is the very substance of you. God is not a power you apply against a rival. God is your being. When non-resistance moves from tool to identity, you do not perform calm, you abide as peace. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as a badge, not as proof, but as nature. So make your study this. Live with these truths until they live you, in the line, in the inbox, in the night watch, in the kitchen sink and the parking lot. Withdraw without fanfare into the one. Do this faithfully, gently, repeatedly, and you will discover that the sequence disappears because the struggler disappears. You are not the one managing storms. You are the sea that forgets to fear the wind. And then, whether ripple or stillness, you remain yourself, the place where resistance has no throne, the dwelling of grace. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and visit. Be still and be. Let it be understood clearly. To measure your progress by the absence of triggers is to take up again the old, false measuring rod. That is the world's arithmetic, counting quiet days and calling them spiritual victory, counting agitations and calling them spiritual failure. Do you not see that in such counting you have returned to 2 powers thinking, one day good, one day evil, one sensation acceptable, one damned and you as umpire between rival gods? Think it not strange concerning the fiery trial which is to try you, says the scripture, as if to tell us that the test is not a detour. It is the very way by which the truth you have learned becomes the truth you are. Count it all joy when ye fall into divers temptations, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. Joy? Yes, because every fresh stirring shows you exactly where you still grant power to the creature. Crucifixion before resurrection. Do not hurry past those words as if they were for churches only. They are the blueprint of your inward life. Too many of us seek the resurrection of perpetual calm without the crucifixion of our belief in a second power. We want the empty tomb while clutching our swords. It cannot be done. Problems must needs be, because it is these very problems that take from us our reliance on material props, on personal will, on the fantasy that our nervous system is our lord. Resist not evil is not a counsel of passivity. It is the portal out of the battlefield into grace. Until you are willing to let the argument die on the cross of non-resistance, you cannot know the quiet of the third day. Do you not know, then, what a trigger truly is? It is a bell in the temple, not the siren of war. When activation begins, when heat rises, when thought races, when the old script delivers its lines, this is not the announcement of failure. It is the summons to the altar. At that bell, you do not mobilize troops. You withdraw. You rest. You return to the government already established. God is. Grace is. One presence. When thou passest through the waters, I will be with thee. They shall not overflow thee. The waters may swirl around the ankles. The presence does not move. And in that moment, the crucifixion is simply this: the death of your need to prove safety by control. Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. Let the need to manage fall, then watch what lives. I speak to you from the very small Golgothas of ordinary days. A text arrives late at night, and the pulse protests. In the old life, I would arm myself, plans, counterplans, lights on, pacing. Now I hear the bell. I sit back into the chair already beneath me, into the presence already within me. I do not fix the pulse. I refuse to crown it. I name it gently. A feeling is here, and release the opponent narrative. There, in that simple dying to the second power, something rises. Clarity to answer with one sentence or not at all. Steadiness to return to the pillow. A quiet confidence that supply is not in my adrenaline, but in the one that never hurries. This is resurrection, not a fireworks display, but life returning to its rightful throne. Promise me only this: you will take the next trigger as invitation, not to heroics, but to ceasing. Each time you refuse to fight, something resurrects discernment without strain, poise without posing, a trust that no longer asks for proofs. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Renewed how? Not by the vanishing of all weather, but by the discovery that weather no longer dictates your voyage. The creature may pass across the deck. The captain has not ceded the helm. Relax. Rest in the assurance that what you have called setback is in truth an anointing, a chance to let patience have her perfect work until non-resistance ceases to be a technique and becomes your nature. Your trigger is not your enemy. It is the doorway where you learn to rest. Walk through, time again and time again and time again. And as you do, the old government loses its jurisdiction. The cross stands, yes, but so does the third day, quiet that follows without trumpet or advertisement, only the simple knowing. My grace is sufficient for thee, sufficient in the hour of stirring, sufficient after, sufficient always. Let it be understood clearly. The social arena is the last battlefield for many of us, because there we are tempted not only to regulate a sensation, but to perform a self we hope others will approve. the urge to appear healed, convincing, unbothered. This is not peace. It is theater. And your nervous system, as long as you are trying to prove you're calm to someone, you have already returned to two powers thinking, you and your critic, your serenity and their opinion, your worth and their verdict, two thrones, two governments. In spiritual consciousness, there are not two powers. There is just grace. Judge not, said the Master. And this applies not only to others, but to yourself. Judge not your face, your hands, your pauses, your swallow, as if they must testify in your favor before a tribunal. I speak to you from the ordinary courts, where such trials are conducted, family tables, office corridors, the front seat of a car where a loved one says, "You're not anxious, are you?" Once, I would sit up straighter, summon techniques, flatten my tone, and audition for acceptance. It was a hopeless task. Proving invites defense. Defense invites counterargument. And the body hears one announcement: danger until you win them. No man can serve two masters. You cannot serve grace and the jury of faces at once. You will hate the one and love the other, or cleave to the one and despise the other. Choose your government. Grant, then, complete freedom to those you love. Do not force your demonstration upon them. A spiritual demonstration is visible only to those with the eyes to see. You will not convert with a performance. You may offer them a word, yes, but do not go further than that. This is love's boundary. This is freedom. If your partner is insistent, if your parent misreads your silence, bless them and let them be as they are without inner debate. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. Plain speech, not persuasive speech. The more you strain to make them perceive your calm, the more you deny it. Remember, what you no longer need to prove no longer needs to be defended. So here is a simple relational practice. Speak plainly, without drama, and without seeking permission. I'm noticing activation. I'm going to rest for a moment. Then do it, step to the porch. Sit on the edge of the bed. Place a hand lightly on the belly and return to the sequence, not as a show, but as a return to government. Do not narrate your breath to the room. Do not apologize for stepping away. Do not turn back at the door to read their faces. Return, rest, resume. If they ask again, you may answer once, I'm okay to be as I am. I'll be back in a minute. And then, my friend, stop explaining. Take no thought how or what ye shall speak, for in that hour explanation becomes a snare. Your peace does not require their certification. Do you not know what fruit is born when you cease recruiting the nervous system for public relations? The shoulders soften because they are no longer billboards. The throat loosens because it is not tasked with managing impressions. The eyes do not scan for approval. They receive light. The body reads the message it most needed. We are not in court, and in that message there is release. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence not in your image, but in the presence that is unmoved by faces or frowns. If you are asked for counsel by those around you, offer it simply. Offer them a line, a book, a practice if they request it. But do not chase, do not plead, do not attempt to prove by a flawless display. That is a violation of freedom and a confession of fear. Love respects liberty, even the liberty to misunderstand you. Whosoever will, let him come. And whosoever will not grant them their peace and keep yours. You will discover that as you remove the theater, the room becomes simple again. Meals are meals. Words are words. Laughter returns without assignment. The creature, those glances, those questions, loses its threat because you have withdrawn your worship. Relax. Rest in the assurance that the only audience before whom life is lived is the one that already indwells you. Lo, I am with you always, not the gaze of a board of examiners, but the companionship of grace. Walk into gatherings with no brief to argue, no poster to hold up, no serenity to exhibit. Live as you live when alone with God, unhurried, honest, undefended, and then note the quiet miracle. Because you no longer need to prove, you no longer need to defend. Peace is not an act. Peace is your nature recognized. And once recognized, it governs even in company. At this moment, let us be still, not to get something, not to bend the body or the room to our will, but to acknowledge what is already present. The sea is here before the wind. The root is here before the leaf. Rest is not the reward after you win. Rest is the place you start. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and test, but be still and know. Close the inner shop. Lay down the ledger. Inwardly, in the quiet of your own awareness, let this prayer form without strain. I withdraw from the battle. I remove my consent from fear's claim to authority. I rest in grace. My peace is not made by effort. It is given. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let that be heard, not argued. Let it be so. Now, as you sit in this, grant the body its honesty. If tightness appears in the throat, if a flutter passes the heart, if a thought rises with a headline of doom, let it come and let it pass without commentary and without correction. Do not call the wave an enemy and do not anoint it a ruler. You are not manufacturing calm. You are resting where calm is already true. Peace, be still. Speak it, not to the ocean as if it were your opponent, but to the little storm in the mind that believes there are two powers. Peace, be still. There are not two powers. There is one. Let the breath be as it is. If it lengthens, welcome it. If it shortens, do not pursue it. Feel the weight of the body and trust it to the chair or the bed. Notice that you were being held before you thought to ask. Underneath are the everlasting arms. Let the shoulders read that sentence without words. Let the eyes, even closed, rest back into the darkness that is not empty but full. If a swallow comes, let it. If a sigh arrives, do not make it a technique. Nothing is being managed here. Everything is being yielded to grace. Say again, quietly, as if placing a seal upon the heart. I withdraw from the battle. I rest in grace. My peace is not made by effort, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. If a picture of tomorrow tries to enter, bless it and let it wait at the gate. If a memory of yesterday knocks, bless it and let it pass. The government upon your shoulders is not theirs. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end. Sit in that increase, not as achiever, but as witness. For a few minutes, this is all abide like this. No performance for the room. No audit of how well you are doing. Simply the simple thing. Rest back into what is. The storm on Galilee heard one sentence and obeyed. The same presence speaks now. Peace, be still. And if there is a ripple yet, do not trouble yourself to judge. The decree has gone forth. You need not enforce it. You need only trust it. Carry this with you as a way, not an episode. Once a day, and at the first sign of inner warfare, a heat in the face, a rush of explaining, a clang of urgency, step aside outwardly if you must, and always step aside inwardly. 1 minute will do. 2 will do. Say within, I withdraw. I rest. I am held. Return like this time again and time again and time again until the posture of non-resistance stands up in you before you think to call it. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Now, beloved, we go from this moment not armed for a campaign, but settled in a companionship. Lo, I am with you always. Let that companionship be the atmosphere of your errands and your evenings, your meetings and your mornings. You will find that because you start from rest, you do not need to win your PC chow. It meets you at the door. And when the wind rises, as winds do, you will hear again the word within that is not your effort, but his life. Peace, be still, and you will be.